When you pick up a microphone today, whether it's for karaoke, podcasting, broadcasting, or even a phone call, it feels so ordinary that you rarely stop to ask, where did this little device come from? How did humanity invent something that can capture a human voice and make it louder, clearer, and immortalized? The story of the microphone is not just about electronics, it's about voices that wanted to be heard, singers filling concert halls, actors on stage, broadcasters reaching millions, politicians addressing nations, and eventually ordinary people speaking into phones or creating YouTube videos. But before we had the microphone, sound was fleeting. Once spoken or sung, it was gone. If you wanted to be heard by a crowd, you had to shout. If you wanted music to fill a hall, it depended on the strength of instruments. The microphone changed all of that. Long before the microphone, early curiosity about sound. The roots of the microphone go back to ancient times when philosophers like Pythagoras and Aristotle wondered about the nature of sound. They didn't know about sound waves, but they recognized that vibrations and air carried voices. Centuries later, in the 1600s, scientists like Robert Hooke created devices such as the tin can telephone, strings pulled tight between two cups, transmitting vibrations. These primitive experiments were not microphones, but they were stepping stones. They showed that sound could be captured, carried, and transmitted. By the 1800s, science had finally explained sound waves in terms of vibrations and pressure in the air, and this understanding would pave the way for the microphone. The first steps toward a microphone. The microphone story is tied closely to the invention of the telephone. In the late 19th century, inventors like Alexander Graham Bell and Elisha Gray were racing to transmit the human voice over wires. They needed a device that could take the tiny vibrations of speech and turn them into an electrical signal. This is where the microphone begins. In 1877, Emile Berliner, a German-American inventor, created what is often considered the first true microphone. It used a loose contact of carbon to vary electrical resistance as sound waves pressed against a diaphragm. That varying resistance produced an electrical signal that matched the speaker's voice. Almost simultaneously, Thomas Edison improved upon Berliner's design. Edison's carbon button transmitter became the standard for early telephones. For decades, the carbon microphone was the only type in wide use. It wasn't perfect, it was noisy, scratchy, and lacked clarity, but it worked. And for the first time, human voices could travel distances amplified and transmitted by electricity. The age of radio and performance. By the early 20th century, microphones began leaving the telephone and stepping into new roles, radio and performance. When radio broadcasting exploded in the 1920s, announcers, singers, and orchestras needed a way to bring sound into the microphone clearly. The old carbon microphones weren't good enough. That's when new designs appeared. Condenser microphone, 1916, invented by E.C. Wente at Bell Labs. It used a capacitor to capture sound with much greater clarity than carbon microphones. Ribbon microphone, 1920s to 1930s, developed by Harry F. Olson at RCA. It used a thin strip of metal suspended in a magnetic field. These mics produced warm, natural sound and became icons of radio broadcasting. Suddenly, the microphone wasn't just a tool for communication, it was an instrument of art. Crooners like Bing Crosby sang intimately into ribbon microphones, creating a new style of performance that would have been impossible before. The microphone changed not only technology, but music itself. Microphones everywhere, broadcasting and beyond, 1940s, 1970s. The mid-20th century was the microphone's golden age as it became central to entertainment, communication, and industry. In 1942, Shure introduced the Unidyne, the first single-element dynamic microphone, with a cardioid pattern that reduced background noise. Made of die-cast zinc and steel, it was rugged and affordable, used in radio, live music, and World War II military communications. Its iconic design, seen in photos of Elvis Presley, became a symbol of the era. The electret condenser microphone, developed in the 1960s by Bell Laboratories and later refined by Sony, was a game-changer. It used a permanently charged material, eliminating the need for external power, making it smaller and cheaper. Made of plastic and lightweight metals, electret microphones were used in portable tape recorders, telephones, and early computers. By the 1970s, they were in consumer devices like Walkmans and answering machines. Microphones became more specialized. Lavalier microphones, small and clipped to clothing, appeared in the 1950s for television, made of plastic with tiny diaphragms. Shotgun microphones with long, narrow pickup patterns were used in film to capture dialogue from a distance. Materials evolved to include lightweight alloys and durable plastics with foam windscreens to reduce noise. Manufacturing became automated, lowering costs and increasing availability. Microphones shaped global culture. In the 1950s and 1960s, rock and roll and television relied on them, from the Beatles' studio recordings to Walter Cronkite's news broadcasts. In politics, microphones amplified speeches like Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream." By the 1970s, over 90% of U.S. households had radios or TVs, all powered by microphones, making them indispensable.
Microphones beyond music. But microphones were not just for musicians. They entered film, allowing synchronized sound and dialogue in movies, replacing the silent film era. Politics. Leaders like Franklin D. Roosevelt used microphones for fireside chats, reaching citizens directly. Space. Even astronauts relied on microphones to send their voices back from the moon. Everywhere a voice needed to be heard, microphones followed. The modern microphone, digital and wireless, 1980s to present. The late 20th century brought digital and wireless technology. In the 1980s, wireless microphones using radio frequencies, UHF or VHF, became common for live performances and TV. Made of plastic with internal antennas, they allowed performers like Madonna to move freely. Digital microphones introduced in the 1990s converted sound directly into digital signals, used in studios and computers. USB microphones like Blue's Yeti in 2009 made recording accessible to podcasters and YouTubers with plastic casings and plug-and-play simplicity. MES microphones, micro-electromechanical systems, developed in the 2000s, were tiny, measuring millimeters, and used in smartphones, hearing aids, and smart speakers. Made of silicon with microscopic diaphragms, they were cheap and reliable, with billions produced annually. Smart microphones integrated with AI appeared in devices like Amazon Echo, recognizing voices for commands. Today, microphones are more advanced than ever. Condenser microphones dominate recording studios. Dynamic microphones rule the stage. Lavalier and headset mics make broadcasting hands-free. MES microphones, tiny micro-electromechanical systems, power our phones, earbuds, and AI devices. Podcasting mics like the Blue Yeti and Shure SM7B bring studio sound to bedrooms and home offices. From carbon buttons to digital arrays, microphones have shaped human communication more than almost any other device. Microphones are now ubiquitous in phones, laptops, and cars. They support global communication, from video calls to voice assistants. Materials include advanced plastics, silicon, and eco-friendly composites reflecting sustainability trends. The power of the microphone. The microphone is a device that captures the most human of all instruments, the voice. From the crackly sounds of Edison's first carbon transmitter to the crystal clarity of modern condenser mics, microphones have allowed humanity to speak, sing, record, and broadcast across time and space. They've changed the way we hear music, share ideas, and even talk to machines. Without the microphone, there would be no radio, no podcasts as we know them, no phone calls, and no digital assistants. The microphone gave us a way to preserve voices forever, to let someone whisper, shout, or sing and be heard not only across the room, but across the world and across history. And that is the simple, extraordinary story of the microphone.